In attendance for the board, we have Alan, Rafia, Renee, Dick, Lynn, Janet, Ginny, Milton, Andy. Senior staff is Susan and Sherry. I remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded broadcast. Any board members calling in remotely, like South America or? Nope.
And by the way, welcome home, Rafia.
Okay, announcement of closed meetings. There was a closed meeting of the Architectural Resource Committee on Monday, December 9th. In attendance was Sherry Fenneroff, Deb Bach, Ed Gordon, Ann McKissick, Carl McKinney. The vote to close was 5-0-0. The reason to close was HOA Section 4, consultation with staff personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation. The purpose was discussion of new and ongoing covenant cases. The meeting was closed at 1:05 p.m. and opened at 2:23 p.m. There was a closed meeting of the Audit Committee on December 9th. In attendance were James Young, Dick Bolton, Renee DuBois, and Tim Redmond. The vote to close was 4-0-0. It was closed under Section 1 and 4, 1, discussion of matters pertaining to employees and personnel, and 4, consultation with staff personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connection with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. Purposes, there were 2 of them, to review consultants' reports and to review several internal audit reports and consultation with staff personnel on legal matters. The meeting was closed in 2 parts. First, from 7:01 p.m. to 7:38 p.m., and then from 8:25 p.m. to 9:25 p.m. And that's all the closed meeting announcements I have. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Renee got there first.
Rafi got second.
Rafi was second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. No conflicts of interest have been disclosed to me. Consent agenda, well, it's all approved. So we're down to board votes. Approval of an appointment to the Climate Change and Sustainability Advisory Committee. I hopefully you've all seen the memo from Jeremy. Is there a motion to approve? Roberto Martin. Alan moved. Is there a second? Dick seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Looks unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we're down to chair's report. You've seen my report. I just want to add a couple things.
The question, in the packet before that, the energy piece, there's a thing from the audit.
Right, we did that under
That was part of the
consult.
consent.
Yeah, it's all part of the consent agenda. And the audit committee it was a recommendation from the audit committee. So in addition to the chair's remarks in the written form, I want to say thank you to the CA staff who put on the holiday party last Friday. It was very nice. Nice activity. They did a good job. And I want to highlight that at that party, one of the people recognized was Ken Zachman for 50 years at CA.
Wow.
You know, he's worked for the aquatics. And given that CA is only about 54 years old, that's
Start
quite.
out as a lifeguard or something, or?
And then the second person also recognized was Dennis Matty
Yeah.
for 45 years at CA.
Wow.
So I want to congratulate both Ken and Dennis.
Lifeguard. You mentioned a teenage boy. Yeah, you're 3.
Okay, well, So there also were team members of the year, and Jessica won one of the 3 team members of the year. Unfortunately, I don't remember exactly the category, and I'm trying to think.
Connie over
It's Connie, is,
Clement.
at the
Clement.
swim center won.
Right, team member of the year, and Jeremy was the third team member of the year. There are three different categories, but thanks for reminding me, Dick.
Is this going up on Facebook or something, or?
I doubt it.
Good.
Okay, that's any questions on my report? All right, we're on to the president's report. Remind you that it's the year in review. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look at it, so any questions? I do want to thank Milton and Janet for putting it all together. Nice summary of what has been going on for the last year.
I
And-
haven't,
No.
I oppose fluff, so if you see anything in here that looks like fluff, let me know.
Any questions? If not, move on.
Well, it's not about the
yeah,
year in review, but
sure.
I was wondering, I asked you a few weeks ago, or a week ago, whenever we last met, about the Guilford Industrial,
Yes,
Have you had a
General
chance to-
Counsel is reviewing the document that was submitted to us.
do you have a sense of when that review might be complete?
Sherry?
I am hoping to have it completed by the end of next week.
Thank you.
Okay, move on. Inter Arbor Trust Report is submitted in writing. Any questions? Okay, financial reports. They were reviewed at the audit committee. Would you like to say a few words about the financial reports?
It looked fine.
You heard it from the audit
There
committee.
were a lot of numbers.
There's nothing to complain about.
Milton?
Specifically, Susan, is there anything, just as the Chief Financial Officer, we want to highlight to the board?
I think no, I would just point out that we're very close to budget for the 6 months of the end, halfway through the year. We expect to be at budget for the year. Revenue slightly under, expense savings offsetting those revenue shortfalls. So I think we'll be in fine shape for the year end.
All right.
Yeah, just, do you have
Jenny?
any idea why of the revenue shortfall? I'm particularly interested in whether we're having any homeowners or businesses that aren't paying the lien or something
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
none of that is from the annual charge. The collections on that are strong. We're not
Okay.
having any issues with annual charge payments.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the dashboard quarterly member.
Before you move
Oh,
on,
sorry.
I realize I have a question for the Inter Arbor.
Okay.
I just want,
Yes.
there were allegations about other people putting things on land owned by CA and controlled by the trust without permission. And you had last said, in response to an email from me, that you were working on it. I don't see anything in here about what the resolution of that was, or were things taken off the property that shouldn't have been there, or what's the?
No, we decided it was really too late to do anything substantive, that we would just let it go, deal with it, start dealing with it in January. There's supposed to be a meeting of the parties in January. There's some other actions that are being contemplated.
Thank you.
Okay, dashboard quarterly report membership. Milton first, and then we'll turn it over to Susan and Dan. Milton, anything on that?
Dan, you're on.
I think I think Dan wants Susan to go first.
Hold on.
So, we've been using these, speaking of the microphone, sorry. These metrics have been in place for a few years now, so they should look familiar to you. There aren't anything that, there's no reason for alarm in these, and you'll see that the quarters are similar now. You should see some patterns that look familiar to you. So, I don't really have anything to add on that. We did include both metrics on membership receivables, so we were just going to keep both of them in there rather than pull one or the other. And there were no, from last quarter, there were no proposed changes from the board to reflect in the format or anything. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So any questions on the metrics? Alan?
Metric number 4, I'm just trying to figure, what meaning should I make of, it seems like a lot of variations, so I'm wondering what the meaning I should make of it.
So what you're seeing is in 2015, the Columbia Association issued long-term debt in fiscal year 15, and so that pushed the cash to positive numbers for 16 and 17. We had funds remaining from that debt issuance that kept the cash higher, and then as we've spent down.
That kind of debt is, when we get the money in, that's counted as cash flow from operations?
Not from operations.
Yeah, no, not from operations, but because we had the cash, we didn't need to use it
I
to
see.
the same extent that we have
You
had
didn't have to
in
use
other
other
periods.
cash.
Right, so now we're seeing that, and also in recent years, our capital spending's been higher, so that's reflecting a lower cash, a greater drain on cash than we have had.
Any other questions? Not, turn it over to Dan and his portion.
The Clarabridge survey for the quarter came out really well, really consistent. We kind of found our footing. We took a big impact when the athletic club closed, but we didn't see the same strength of impact that we saw with the renovations at Supreme, although we did see a little bit, and the fitness clubs went down a little bit during the quarter. The pools were still really high. And if you notice, the bigger mover of the quarter was the Haven, because people thought the Haven was closing, so they wanted to get the word out. So there was a lot of that in
Keep
there.
that rumor going? Is it?
No, because I need people to buy memberships. Tennis, we did see a big dip, and that's as tennis moves back in. The dynamic in tennis has shifted a little bit, where the athletic club used to be the center of the tennis world, and now Longreach is, and that's where all the staff is housed. I think we felt the impact of that. So we're working with staff to have more staff presence there and make sure we don't lose that community. But if you broke the two out, Longreach is up here and athletic club is down here. And when you look at it, I think it's the people is the main thing. We did some upgrades to the courts, so the courts are great. We're going to do some lighting upgrades later. But I think it's more the fact that used to be where all the staff was, and they interacted with staff all the time, and they're not now.
Alan?
On that page, but before the NPS scores, that first survey metrics thing,
Yes.
looks like a lot of red. What is that? And it looks all the same, so I'm not clear. If it's all going to look the same, there's probably no reason to have that there. So
Yeah,
what does
that's,
it mean?
and those are, so in the survey, have you taken the survey?
Probably.
So the survey's 5 satisfaction questions, which are those 5, how satisfied with you are those 5 things. And then it's what can we do to make your experience better, and then the net promoter question, why. And for the most part, you're right. Those scores kind of all modulate out, and they're very generic. That's why I usually don't refer to them. What I look for there is if something does get out of whack. It doesn't tell you much until something's really out of whack, and then it gives you someplace to go to. But as a whole, it's not.
So what does all that red and sentiment breakdown mean?
That's just as you see the sentiment scores. Yeah, the red's probably not. I don't know why it's all red. That's the colors that when the dashboard made itself, it made. But it shows on the scale, sentiment runs -5 to 5. So it shows as people talk about those things, where's the general sentiment at?
But it's hard to say. I mean, I'm not. So -5 is all the way on the left, and +5 is all the way on the right. So is it the bright red that's people's scores, or is it the dark? I'm not.
The dark red.
The dark red. So people are mostly in the negative.
No, if you look at our sentiment's slightly positive.
Oh.
So,
But now I'm very confused.
yeah, I'll have to go back and look
Okay.
at that. I don't.
Okay.
As I'm looking at them, they all look the same.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dan?
Can you help me understand the dots on the graphs? Because I felt like I used to understand them, and now when I look at them, I'm not sure what
Can
they
you point us to a specific graph you're looking at?
The two that are bar charts, but then they have floating dots.
Above
the
them,
end.
the dots above them?
Main areas of conversation and main areas of
Main areas
conversation,
of
more detail.
So what the two axis, the percentage of total respondents. So the bar represents the percentage of the total number of respondents. The total responses percentage is the bar. The dot is the net promoter score, which is on the right-hand side of the comments that are made about that.
And what do the colors indicate?
Nothing. There's no real,
The colors of the dots,
Yeah.
though,
yeah, no, the colors don't really
so
represent.
they don't.
Um,
Do they not correspond to the words then that are up in the associated words by volume?
They don't, what do you mean correlate?
Color of the circles on
No.
that graph?
No, there's no rhyme nor reason to the color of the dots.
Can that be fixed?
I can talk to the company.
Because if there's information that's not really information, it gets
You
confusing.
can't read it really. Doesn't say
I
what
can
it is.
talk to them about how we can just make them all the same.
Okay, so to make sure I understand, so if I look at fitness centers, 30% is the total, and of that, the net perform was 24.
25.4.
25, okay.
Yeah.
And then if I go down to tennis courts, it doesn't show.
Tennis courts is there, it's,
Tennis courts is 6.5%.
Oh, 6.5,
of the
okay.
conversations were about the tennis courts.
Yeah.
And the net promoter was 12.
Okay.
how can there be a negative net promoter score? Okay.
Any other questions, Jan?
Was that a question, Alan?
No, I'm just trying, I was just,
'Cause
I
there
just
can
want to
be a
make sure
negative
Janet got it.
number.
right, that's what I was mixing up the axes
Okay.
first.
I always, the dots go with the right scale and the bars go with the left scale. Renee?
So I'm learning how to read this. So I'm over on the page that has advertising effectiveness report. Could you just talk for a second about, you have the cost of new membership and then what the 100% down to 60%? I'm not sure what that represents. I'm just, on the left-hand side.
So that is, we don't know if a new member, if 100% of a new member came, or a new member was generated by advertising, that would be 100%. But if it's, if there are other factors, then that's 60%. It's just a way to show a range of what it could be. We don't, it's a calculation, not an actual representation. It's providing you a range.
So
Yeah.
if I look, I may ask the follow-up question. And so if I go down to the next thing, the average cost of new membership, is that what?
That's averaging it. So what the for the period. So we're showing the cost for each quarter in the cost section, and then the average for the fiscal year in the average section.
Oh, okay. All right, so may I ask another question? And what's the click-through rate when you guys advertise?
That would be a question for Laura.
Yeah, I think that's in the, I can look that up while we talk. I think that's in here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dan or Susan? All right. Thank you, Dan. Thanks, Susan. Next, capital project and open space updates. Dennis. Yep,
So
sorry.
I can answer, Renee, the click-through rate is 3.6%, and our industry standard's 2.7%. And that's on page 151 of the quarterly report.
And is it good to be more, or is it better to be less?
Good to be more.
Yeah, we want to beat the,
Might be
right.
more.
My understanding is that we reduced the time and that the way we would run this is if you had any questions, then I could answer those questions. And if you don't have a question about this one, I'd be amazed. So when we're not building the first place gingerbread exhibit, is participating in the Energy Star Energy Treasure Hunt. So the purpose of that is that you go around your existing buildings and you audit them. So you don't want individual team members using heaters, space heaters. And so because it's much more efficient to heat the whole building with natural gas, which we have at the main facility, than to use individual space heaters. And encourage the team members who are a little cold to perhaps wear a sweater. And that we ask the team members for tips, and there is candy in the treasure chest. And so you go around to each of the offices and take a look around.
By the way, what Dennis was referencing, when you came in this evening, there was a slide presentation. And this is the third year of the Gingerbread House competition. And Open Space they built an outhouse and it won.
Incredibly well done, outhouse.
And all appropriately permitted too, right? Yeah, right.
So may I ask a question not about these then, exactly? So I noticed at Supreme, they're resloping the deck at the pool.
So there was a drainage problem, I think, with the deck, and so yes.
So is that as a result of the work that you did over the last year or two, or is that a new problem or an old problem that we're just getting to? Did I make sense?
That is a problem that surfaced out of the work that we just did.
So
the question is, are we paying for it twice?
That's my question.
And the answer would be no.
Thank you so much. You're a wonderful person.
He can read minds.
Well, I didn't want to say.
It's a logical question.
Any other questions for Dennis? If not, thank you. Oh, well, Dick, just got your hand in time.
I know that the BOC told you that you needed to shorten these by getting rid of the little videos that you did. I'd like to ask the whole board if they feel that way, because I enjoy that part of your presentation enormously. And I'd hope we could get that back again. Is there any?
That was only for this meeting.
Just this meeting.
Just for this meeting?
It was just for this meeting.
Okay.
The BOC decided just for this meeting.
Okay. I misunderstood.
Thanks, Dennis. I appreciate it. Okay, tracking forms. Any questions on the tracking
Yeah,
forms?
and
Alan?
Dennis, it's for you, I guess. Number 9 on the board request tracking log. I know it's not due till tomorrow, but tomorrow is just tomorrow. I'm wondering, since you're here, I'm wondering about this. Evaluating the total availability clear title of the existing 50-foot wide Columbia Transit Way for its future use in transit and pedestrian travel.
So the exhibits are done, they'll be sent out tomorrow, and it was done Columbia-wide and shows the transit strips. And then I took each village that had the transit strips and showed what was in those areas. Because if you look Columbia-wide, the scale is so big, you can't tell what's there. But in every case, there is either, there's a few very small exceptions, but there's either a sidewalk or a pathway. Now, it's not a bus route or a tram or anything, but there is pedestrian transit in those areas. And so we did one exhibit showing all of Columbia, and then took each area where there was a transit strip and then showed sidewalks and pathways.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, move on to possible new topics. talking points. Oh, Bonnie's first time here at Talking Points.
Hello. The board decided that Climate Change and Sustainability Committee member resignation and appointment is formalized.
Yep. All right. Hearing no objection, I will wish everyone happy holidays. See you in the new year. Meeting is adjourned.